Wisconsin Broadcasters Association Hall of Famer Bob Berry ruled Milwaukee's airwaves in the 60s and 70s. He spoke with countless musicians and celebrities over the years. Bob collected remarkable recordings of these encounters, which he's now sharing with the public. Here's Bob.
Welcome to our podcast. I'm going to give you a trivia question that I'll bet you will not know the answer to. Who was the voice of John Lennon in the animated film Yellow Submarine? He's a man whose talent has graced the big screen, and he's written some thrilling novels. He had unforgettable roles in classics like A Clockwork Orange and The Italian Job. He was also a best-selling author, a storyteller with a brilliant sense of humor, and an artist with a fascinating career. John Clive was a fantastic guest. He'll make you laugh, think, and be entertained.
John Clive is on the air with us now. He was a very successful actor, and then he turned to writing thrillers, and he had immediate success. Is that kind of tough to switch careers in midlife, John?
Well, it's interesting. It's not tough. It's fascinating, actually, because it gave me a whole new area to work in. And, of course, it's very close to what I was doing as an actor. I mean, you're working with words and scripts and screenplays and so on. And so it's something that's in the same area. And I enjoy it enormously because it provides a perfect contrast in a way. I mean, when you're working as an actor and you're rehearsing, it's a very social profession. I mean, you're working with actors, you're learning the part, you're getting it together. And then this is the opposite end of the extreme. I mean, because it's very solitary. It's your imagination and you're sitting in a room and you're trying to work out your characters. And so one thing does help the other. It complements each other, if you see what I mean.
I thought this would make a good trivia question. Who did the voice of John Lennon in Yellow Submarine?
I did.
That's right, John Clive did it.
Hey, Jeremy, must you always talk in rhyme?
Is that when you met John?
Well, I never met John Lennon, actually. It was only a sort of working relationship. But it was quite awful, actually, because I was here when he was killed in America. And it was one of those sort of traumatic events, that I shan't ever forget. I realized when it happened that perhaps I was a lot closer to him in some ways than I'd previously thought. I remember I was in what I think you call a deli, a delicatessen in Los Angeles, and I was paying my bill, and I heard the girl say, quite lightly, as though she was just passing the time of day, that John Lennon had been killed, and I couldn't believe what she'd said, and I asked her to repeat it, and she said, that's true, he's dead. And I was staring at the money in my hand, to pay the bill, and I couldn't count it. So I just gave it to her, and I left the restaurant, and I went back to my hotel room, and I sat stunned in front of the television set for about, I don't know how long it was, and finally I rang my wife in Ireland, and then a funny thing happened, because my little daughter Hannah, who was 7 then, she's 8 now, came on the line, and she said, isn't it terrible, Daddy, about what's happened to John Lennon? And I said, yes, it's awful, darling. And then she said, but you're all right, aren't you, Daddy? Yes, of course I am. And the reason for that was, of course, because we have a videotape of Yellow Submarine at home, and she plays it constantly, all the time. She loves it. And, of course, as far as she's concerned, that character in the film is me.
Isn't that something?
And, of course, the association in her young mind was that perhaps in some way, because he'd been killed, I'd been harmed. And strangely enough, I felt that too. It's one of those awful events I don't think you ever get over completely.
Now, were any of the Beatles' voices used in Yellow Submarine?
Only on the singing. All the dialogue was done by 3 actors and a chap that was in the army at the time, the British Army, and in fact he was a deserter, would you believe? We didn't know that at the time. Yeah, he played George Harrison's voice. I don't even know his name, perhaps that's the reason I don't know his name. But the other actors were Geoffrey Hughes, who did Paul. I did John Lennon, and Paul Angelis did Ringo. So it was 4 young actors, and I guess they went through about 3,000 auditions to reach us.
Can you still do John's voice?
I don't think so. It's one of those things that you've really got to work at, and it's a long time since I've done it. What we could do, what we were able to do, I think, was to get the authentic Liverpool sound. I mean, it's awfully difficult to try and absolutely impersonate somebody, but I think what we did do, we managed to get across the wit and the humour and the feel of them. And the curious thing is that nobody's ever realised it wasn't the Beatles. And that I find, it's a compliment in a way, and it's very frustrating in another way.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. Yeah, you certainly did an excellent job, no doubt about that. Well, John, good luck.
Thank you very much, Bob. I love talking to you. I've never done this before, but it was very interesting.
Is that right? You haven't done any interviews?
I've done a phone-in to my hotel room before.
Oh, well, good. Yeah, you do a super job, I'll tell you that. You really keep the interest up. Thanks so much. Continued success to you.
Thanks, Bob.
What's the matter, John Love? Blue meanies?
Nude and blue meanies have been sighted within the vicinity of this theatre. There's only one way to go out.
How's that?
Singing!
1, 2, 3, ha!
We all live in a yellow submarine, yellow submarine, yellow submarine. W-O-K-Y, Bob Berry, 1992.
Thank you for listening to Bob Berry's Unearthed Interviews. Be sure to subscribe and rate our podcast wherever you find your podcasts. You can find all our episodes at WisconsinBroadcastersMuseum.org. Check out Bob Berry's book, Rock and Roll Radio Milwaukee. Book sale proceeds support Donate Life Wisconsin. Special thanks to Wisconsin Historical Society and for financial support from WBA Hall of Famer Terry Bond.